So to introduce today's speaker, Dr. Govind Dhaske is an author, researcher, educator, trainer, and coach with a demonstrated experience in the academic and professional sectors, including nonprofits and CSR initiatives. Skilled in social science research and social work education, nonprofit organization, corporate social responsibility, and scholarly writings, Dr. Dhaske holds a doctorate from Indiana University, USA, and master from the prestigious Tata Institute of Social Sciences movement. At present, Dr. Dhaske is working as a consultant to several non-profit organizations and also conducting several independent studies. Dr. Dhaske is an expert on program evaluation, grant proposals, CSR strategies, design and partnerships, documentation and research. So without wasting time, I kindly request our guest speaker to deliver his lecture on the theme of career opportunities in social work. And I also have short announcement to make. During the talk, our student representative, Shubham, will be collecting questions. So I kindly request you to post your questions in the chat box. Okay. Okay, sir, to you.
Yeah. Hello all, this is Dr. Govind Dhaske. I'm the speaker today. Thank you, Amity University, for hosting me for this lecture on careers in social work. Let me share the screen. Okay, so most of you have, I'm assuming that most of you are already in the program at some stage, like in BSW or MSW, and looking forward to, join the job market at some point. But now when you are in a program, you are actually planning towards some career related understanding. But the whole career thing in social work begins right when you choose this particular stream. The very moment you decide to join social work, your struggle for career, or even the some clarity that you look forward to in social work begins. It's not really the tough sector to find a job, but the toughest part is to find a job that suits to your interest and gives you, what you have expected from the job market. That's probably the money, the salary, the benefits, as well as the mental satisfaction. Because social work is more about, compassion. You have some mission, you have some values, and you want to be in the helping profession, and that's how you end up with social work. Okay, so I'll be showing some slides alongside. I'll be giving a speech and deliberate the kind of experience I have with my career and the kind of understanding I have about careers in social work. Alongside, I expect you guys to ask questions to me so that I can elaborate specifically. I can give some customized answers, and that's how you're going to learn more. Because as far as the career track goes, I will be briefing you about like what kind of tracks are open as a social worker for you, and based on that, you probably have some questions in mind. So feel free to ask your questions, and I'll be trying to give satisfactory answers. Okay. Okay. As you know, the ways to become social worker are pretty clear. Like in terms of your academic training, you finish BSW or you finish MSW, or if you are really keen on in the academics and research sector, then you go on and finish your MPhil and PhD, and that's how you have the necessary qualification for practicing as a social worker. But one thing has to be ensured, like most of the programs in social work emphasize a lot on supervised field work, because that's the core part of your training. So you have to ensure that you get that amount of field work exposure, as well as the supervision from some competent supervisor, because that is where you earn most of the competencies. You imbibe a lot of social work competencies during your practice, which is very concurrent. And across India, I see that there is a concurrent field work in all programs. So that is how you get more exposed. So the supervised fieldwork experience is very integral to your academic training and the educational training. Apart from that, when you're actually entering into the field, sometimes in some countries the license is required. Licensure exams are there. Particularly if you're talking about USA, you will have to have this exam conducted by competent authorities, wherein you have to have licensed social work registration or licensed clinical social workers registration. Okay, Clinical social workers are basically, social workers having more deep training to work in the health sector primarily and services alongside the nurse practitioner. Like Australia, then Canada. Some of the countries have this license mandatory. Now, when it comes to India particularly, we don't have any licensed exam as of now. We don't have any competent authority established by any stager as of now. So we don't have to worry about the license part. But if you are willing to, get a certified license abroad in some country, then you have to look for these kind of license exams and what are the minimum, minimum requirements for entering as a professional, social work professional in those countries. Uh, Alongside, there is something called degree equivalence that also comes in a picture. Like your degree was earned in India, and their academic degree requirements are a little different. So you have to establish an equivalence with the Indian degree. So in USA, there is a Council for Social Work Education which establishes that equivalence. Okay, there is some fees to be paid, and there is a formal application. Your school has to give some accreditations, and then the whole process, takes place. So you have to approve your degree, and then you have to appear for the licensure as well. Okay, these are the pathways to become professional social worker. The career part, comes only with these kind of minimum statutory requirements that are adhered in several countries. Uh, Now again, when we are looking forward to join social work career, we have this dilemma. Most of the time, we have this dilemma in mind, like whether to go for so and so specialization, whether to go for a specialization program, or whether to go for a generic social work degree. There are pros and cons. Like most of the students keep thinking about all these things. Now, when it comes to my judgment as an expert about whether to go for specialization or generic social work degree, I'm very clear about generic social work degree because generic social work degree gives you a plethora of opportunities to join the, the sector, job sector particularly. Whereas specialization limits your opportunities in certain streams. And when we are talking about a country like India or even some Asian countries or African countries or Latin American countries, we do not have that kind of specialized social work establishment. Okay, let me repeat this point. Let me tell you my story. That itself will emphasize why I'm advocating for generic social work degree. I did my specialization with medical and psychiatric social work. Okay, MPSW as it's called. But when I finished my degree and I wanted to work in a rural sector, I couldn't find a proper health setting, a proper non-profit which is focused on health related issues in Maharashtra, in certain regions of Maharashtra, and that restricted me. But on the other hand, I had several NGOs available which were working on a rural development, and health was a very like small component within those non-profits. And my specialization to some point it restricted my mobility in the job sector. Whereas with a like a generic social work degree, you have an opportunity to explore your areas of interest, the causes you feel for, and then you can join. Then you can join what you are looking forward to. Otherwise, specializations are most of the time restricting. Okay, and specialized non-profits don't really exist in India. I mean, some of the urban parts you will find like organizations dedicated to mental health, hmm, dedicated to domestic violence. These are limited organizations located at a very particular demographic place, like cities, mostly metros or tier one cities, and that is where the whole degree part restricts yourself. And sometimes when offering job, if you have a very specialized degree, then other sectors, apart from your specialization, they are a little reluctant to offer you a job in those sectors. Okay, so let me be very clear on this part. Like generic social work degree is a very wild card to be a professional social worker, and that definitely makes you a very competent social worker in the job market to apply for any sort of job that is available. Okay, uh, most of these things now let me have a little backgrounder about what is social work because what I'm going to tell you in terms of career track won't be meaningful unless we have a proper understanding about what is the mission of social work. Like psychology has a different mission, economics has a different mission. The similar sort of mission exists with social work as well. So, what sort of mission exists with social work? We work on enhancing human well-being. Okay, that's very primary mission of our profession. Then we have to look forward to help people to meet their basic needs. Then empowerment of vulnerable, oppressed, and poor is one of our core agendas in social work. Then social justice, quality of life is very primary, and to achieve all this, we have to work with individuals, groups, communities, and different kind of other setups we have to deal with. Okay, so this is the broad mission of social work. I mean, you should be very clear about what social work does. Then only you will come to know what sort of opportunities exist in social work, and somewhere you'll also find the compatibility of your own values in terms of the kind of jobs available in the market. Okay, so when you're going for a job in social work, there are different patterns that exist. What are the patterns of social work? There are these several patterns, like on the left I have mentioned here. Problem focused. Okay, if you feel for the cause, like if you feel for the issue, let us say corruption, human rights, animal rights, and those things, then there are a plethora of NGOs in that particular cause, dealing with that particular cause. You have to look forward to those problem focused NGOs. Then there are issue based NGOs which talk about rights, and like they're working towards empowerment of the underprivileged, or working towards tribal development. So you have problem focused non-profits available, you have issue based non-profits available. Then there are some non-profits working in collaboration with the government. Okay, we call it convergence. So there are some non-profits which function in the form of convergence, and most of them are primarily working with the government. Okay, most of the schematic support like MGNREG or some other programs like, let us say, midday meal and all that. So NGOs are very active partners in some of the schemes or some other programs, like NABARD works on several rural development schemes, and NGOs are their like core partners, which actually does the field work for them. So those type of social work avenues are available, like social work job avenues are available. Okay, then there are partnerships, mostly with the private sector, like CSR and all. So there are plethora of jobs coming out of those partnerships, like directly working with the CSR or some partnering organization of CSR. Then advocacy. There are some policy advocacy organizations which are particularly working with some cause and doing some research and getting into the litigious mode. Like having a lot of PILs, creating awareness through media campaigns and all that. Like there are, like, India Against Corruption is one of the advocacy organizations that works towards eradication of corruption, so to say. Then there are activist kind of organizations, or activism as such, like a standalone activism also is one of the patterns which you can join. I mean, you can become an activist for the causes that you feel. Okay. Uh, Most of the jobs that we find in social work are saturated in these dominant sectors, like school social work, school social work. Like most of the schools, like some of the countries have mandatory school social worker position, but in India I don't see that as of now. But there is a lot of opportunity to provide social work services within school setups. So you can look for those opportunities. I think some of the schools have started this, but still it is not really established, and there is some more effort needed from the social work side, like academic social work side, where they have to advocate for school-based social worker in every single public school. Okay, so that is one of the opportunities. Then poverty sector has a lot of jobs actually. The livelihood sector has a plethora of jobs, and that is also available. Like you can take up some aspect of livelihood, like urban livelihood or rural livelihood, and you can seek job in that. Okay, it all depends on the kind of training you are receiving, your area of interest, the kind of exposure you get, and what you want to choose as your life mission or even a temporary job. Okay, I will talk about that in later part of this presentation. Then mental health and addiction sector is there. Mental health and addiction sector is there. Then disability sector is there. Then social justice related organizations are there. Then disaster relief and rehab. Okay, this is one of the prominent areas these days wherein social workers are employed. If you have not received specialized training in disaster relief and rehab, then you can definitely equip yourself with some of the online courses, or you can definitely attend some of the workshops. Like recently, like 2 days before, NIRD PR Hyderabad, which is a central research institution, that has conducted one workshop about how disaster management plans are to be integrated with the Gram Panchayat development plans, because most of the villages located along the banks of rivers that get generally that get flooded, Gram Panchayat is the primary actor, to work in the rehab and relief thing, and they don't really have much financial support and all that. So my point is that if you develop some interest in certain things, then generic social work gives you an opportunity to equip yourself with some additional skills through workshops or all this training programs. Okay, and you have to keep that in mind when you are grooming yourself as a social worker. Then corporate social responsibility is one of the major preferable areas for social workers to join in. Okay, CSR, like junior manager positions are there, then executive positions are there. Most of the people directly work under the HR department of the corporations through CSR. Okay, so you are part of HR department, and you work through mostly work through partners. Actually, I don't see much trend these days in CSR wherein they actually do their own work. They always work through partners. Okay, and managing those non-profits or coordinating the development spending of through CSR is mainly the job responsibility. Then government schematic support I already explained. Then movements are there for activism and all that. Okay. Now let me specifically take you to the tracks, different tracks available. Okay, so direct practice is one of the prominent, one of the mostly preferred and sought after track. As a professional social worker, you can work as a social work professional in a non-profit. Okay, that's a very established and very clear track you have. You look for a job at a non-profit. Okay, non-profit that is well funded, non-profit that has several projects of your interest as well. Then you can do a direct practice within government also. Like most of the ministries are recruiting a lot of social work graduates these days, particularly Rural Development Ministry, Health Ministry, Ministry of Women and Child Welfare. They have several programs. Okay, I think Delhi government it has recruited several social workers to work with their MLAs to spend funds. MLAs have some funds allocated through the legislature, and that fund spending is done by social work in some of the states. So Delhi has such kind of job opportunity, but similar kind of opportunities exist in all states. But you just have to look for it. Okay, if you really work, if you really prefer to work with government, then you can definitely join this particular segment also. CSR, I just briefly mentioned about what kind of CSR tracks are available. CSR tracks, particularly about junior manager, joining as a junior manager or like associate. These are the primary entry jobs available, but you can move ahead in the ladder. No issues about that. For CSR, you have to be really competitive. You have to have good communication skills. You have to have good coordination skills, and there is a lot of competition in CSR jobs. And most of the brand institutions, like one of yours, there is going to be several people competing for CSR job, because that is one of the well-paid job, and it's like it's quite a job that definitely people like the comfort of. Then there are quite a few private sector related private sector jobs also, like some of the agencies, think tanks. They recruit social workers, for field related research, some desk research, and some other relevant tasks that are that those tasks that we are trained on, particularly dealing with people, understanding people's issues and all that. Like IPAC is there. then PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers, they definitely recruit social work graduates with some research aptitude. Okay, you have to have some research aptitude. When I'm mentioning these jobs, I'm actually indicating like some sort of aptitude in you. Okay, like for professional social worker working with a non-profits, you have to have a very good understanding of the community organization processes. You have to have very good understanding of casework, group work. These are very core points actually. If you're working with the government, then you have to have very good coordination skills. Okay, you have to have very good understanding of the policy process, public policy process, and the execution of the policies, yeah, and the schemes, implementation of schemes in general. Okay, for CSR, you should have a very good understanding about due diligence, program design, program evaluation, monitoring. These are the things that you have to know. There is a lot of data science skill that also matters. Like you have to have a very good understanding of understand those numbers that are being sent to you by non-profits, like your partner organizations or CSR. Then in private sector, actually, they have those are also like very competitive jobs, like Cuts International, Jaipur. So basically, a think tank organization. So they specifically look for a lot of research aptitude in their candidates. So you have to decide these tracks, like what you want to do in future while you're working as a social worker, and accordingly you have to groom yourself. The kind of internship you select, the kind of projects you do, the kind of fieldwork organization you choose. You should have that judgment right in the beginning while you're studying itself, like what do you want to prosper in, what do you want to learn, and what do you want to go for a job in. Like, there are subsectors that you have to identify for yourself. Okay, if you have not done that, you still have a chance. Okay, like once you enter in the open market, still you can the track. It won't take long actually. 8 to 12 months, and you will again find your path. So nothing to blame about your decisions taken in past. Okay. Okay, so the policy practice part. Okay, the policy practice part again, that's linked to the government-led thing, but policy processes and policy science requires some specialized skills and some specialized focus. Like not everybody is interested in the policy process, the policy making process. So you have to understand where your interest lies in, and accordingly you can choose this policy practice as well. Policy practice entails like working with academia, working with the think tanks, working as a researcher again. But these organizations are very specific and they're working on a very specific agenda. And you should have some, good background about policy related issues. Only then you can enter in these organizations. But this track is pretty much available for you. I have already briefed about the direct practice with government sector. This is pretty much in alignment with the same explanation, but just some people want to develop as a policy way, this becomes a very notable and significant category which you can follow. So if you have some flair for policy practice, then you can definitely tap these organizations, tap these government projects, and also look for some projects in academia where you can be some courage and you have the willingness to establish yourself and demonstrate some change in society, in the policy. Then you can start your own non-profit. Okay, starting own non-profit, you must have received training. By the time you finish your MSW, you get to know how to start NGO, how to establish NGO, how to write proposals, how to get funding, how to use social media, how to run campaigns. Okay, so all these things definitely come in a picture. Starting a non-profit is a very serious decision. Okay, it's a very serious decision, and it has a lot of struggle involved in it. You don't really get funding directly the moment you start the organization because there is a lot of struggle. So you better take this decision very carefully, or else while you're working in some other organization, in the long run you can establish your non-profit, and the moment you get some good funds, get some good projects, you can switch to the private NGOs. Okay, that is one of the ways you can establish yourself with this particular degree. Then in academia, if you have a flair for teaching and doing some core research, then the logical pathway is to get higher degree, higher qualification. With masters, you won't be able to teach much, but with MPhil, with PhD, you can definitely enter in academia. There are a lot of requirements along that line as well. Like you have to have NAT, or there are certain requirements about PhD degree as well, like your dissertation, publications, and all that. There is academic performance index that also comes in a picture. So those things are definitely there. But if you are really planning towards joining academia in social work, then you better plan very soon and you engage yourself in terms of what is the requirement for getting jobs in academia. There are quite a good number of jobs available in academia, and it is growing. Social work academia is growing in India, so you can definitely find a job, but it's going to be competitive again because we are the one of the most populated country, and we are smart labor as well, globally known. Okay, startups. I won't deliberate much on startups because it mainly falls in social entrepreneurship, but there are some social work services that you provide by charging some user fees. Like let us say one of my friends has started in Europe. She has started an organization that provides counseling services for bullying victims, cyberbullying victims. So cyberbullying or cybercrime is one of the areas wherein we don't find many non-profits. She's a social worker, but she couldn't get funding from anywhere. So she has developed this user fee-based model. I'm mentioning this. This doesn't really fall in the non-profit sector. Okay, it becomes for profit the moment you charge user fees. But then she's providing the services using her skill set as a social worker. Okay, try to understand that. What she learned as a social worker, she's employing it through a startup that provides services in cybercrime related, for cybercrime related victims. Okay, so there is cyberbullying, there is a cyber abuse, cyber sexual abuse. There are new category of issues that are coming up with digital interactions, and there are not many non-profits engaging themselves in this and providing services and support to the population. So she has came up with a startup. Okay, so startup is one of the options that you can definitely think about. But then again, you have to ensure that you employ social work values while you're establishing the startup. And if it is at a higher scale, or it is dealing with a bigger population, then it probably will be called as a social entrepreneurship, which is a very different sort of subsector within the social science disciplines. So that's about startups. Okay. Activism is one of the careers which is available actually, but it is a very risky career again, like the same way like starting your own non-profit. Because being an activist actually calls for a lot of sacrifice and very focused work. There are no work hours, there is no like insured money or insured benefits of it. It is just you do out of your passion and you do it because you feel for the cause. Most of the activists establish their non-profits or some of the services at a later point, but they begin as an activist, independent activist on their own in the beginning, and then they organize people, and then they're converting that organization of people into a setup or a platform is all up to you. But you can definitely work in this sector. Okay, activism is one of the most demanded things from social workers, and very few people choose to be an activist. Okay. I'm sorry. And being an activist doesn't mean that you have to work on your own or through your non-profit. Okay, there are several activist organizations. Even Oxfam is pretty much like activist organization, working on several campaigns and giving a lot of freedom to work on. PETA is one of the activist organizations where you can work with that activist role and you can actually convert all the values that you have in your profession. So you can definitely show the change as an activist. Okay, so that is one of the platforms available for you as a social worker. Then this is most important actually because this is emerging as one of the most preferred career these days, like independent professional or consultant based on your expertise. If you have developed certain expertise, let us say like you pass out from MSW, you work in certain sector for 1 or 2 years, and then you feel like you have some skills which can help you to build your own consultancy, or you can work as a freelancer or a professional consultant, then you can definitely go for this kind of opportunity. Okay, even as a fresher, you can start with it. If you had a very good fieldwork exposure, if you are smart enough, you have some publications, or you have done some dissertation in a very specific area which is not really touched upon by even the academia, then you have opportunity available in this particular segment. The advantage of being independent from professional consultant is that you can charge your own fees. One thing, you have a lot of freedom to design the assignment and conduct it. Sometimes you have to tailor it according to the agency requirement also, but it is not really that painful. Then you have a freedom. There are no office hours actually. You can take assignments when you want. You can skip assignments. You can schedule it the way it is convenient for you. So these are some of the major things that take place in independent and professional consultant. Consultancy is sometimes very challenging. Okay, sometimes consultancies dry out like anything because the whole development sector is affected by the funding. They don't produce their funds. They are dependent on the aid organizations, international aid organizations, USAID, UKAID, and all those organizations. They have to be dependent on the corporate social responsibility related funds that is coming to the non-profits. And the third avenue is basically from different private sector as well as government schemes. NGOs raise their funds also, they have their corpus also. But when you are joining NGO, just check the kind of funding they have. Okay. If they have some stable funding, then your job is safe and you can join them. Okay. That decision you have to take very carefully. Okay. I'll be telling you along the line about how to go ahead with that. So basically, the career tracks available in social work are limited to this, like direct practice, policy practice, starting your own non-profit. You can get into the academia and work as a researcher and teaching professional. Then you can have your own startups. Then you can be an activist working for an organization or an independent professional, independent activist, so to say. Then you have this independent professional freelancer or consultant position available for you to choose. But the primary and the most preferred is to find a good job in an NGO that is well established and you have interest in their work as well. So that is one of the most logical kind of setup that you should be looking for. But there are plethora of things and you have to choose for the setup. Okay, every setup has its pros and cons. Like NGOs give you freedom. NGO has a very good culture. On the other hand, CSR is a very professional environment. There are certain certain discipline that you have to abide by. Working with the government, then you will be mostly dealing with either the elected representatives or the bureaucrats. So they have their own work culture. So you have to look for that also. Like if you prefer that, then you can definitely go for it. And the other parts also, it has pros and cons. Like activists, you have to be on your own. Bread and butter is a big deal then. Oh, okay. So there are some important things while you are looking for career in social work that I want to highlight here. You have to have a clarity about what you want to be, like not just social worker, but what in social work, what you want to do. Okay, that is very primary, and try to have this clarity as soon as you get it. That's wonderful. And if you have directly joined MSW, then right in the first 6 months you should have that clarity. Try to expose yourself. Try to learn more about what kind of career is available for you. What kind of areas of interest that call for you, and those kind of inquiries have to be done at a very early stage. And once you have a clarity, then you can definitely engage yourself in those particular streams, right? Like if you feel for the child welfare, then you can definitely choose field work in the child welfare related organization. You can definitely build your professional network in the same area of interest. Then the second most point, like if you really want to, you have proficiency in all competency-based pattern as of now. Okay, our fieldwork training is different than the kind of fieldwork training takes place abroad. But there are certain competencies a social worker is expected to have. So you have to follow those competencies. Okay, try to learn more about the competencies through Google, or just try to go through the syllabus, the curriculum of your course, and you will find these competencies located in that syllabus. Okay, maybe the wording may be different, but those skills, those competencies are pretty much there. And try to, you know, learn those competencies, demonstrate those competencies while you are in the academia. Okay, because that is faculties who can guide you whether you are going correct or not. Later, when you are in the professional world, like when you are on a job, you are not necessarily getting that deep mentoring that you can get while you are in the academia. Okay, so ensure proficiency in all social work competencies. Okay, like demonstrate that how you have you demonstrated activism, like demonstrate activism through some small campaign, or like meeting with the local tehsildar and sorting out the PDS, like public distribution system issue, or organize a health camp somewhere, in collaboration with private like Lions Club, or government like PSC and all that. So these are things which are pretty much part of your social work training, but try to do it more passionately in a more engaged manner, so that you get a very good systemic understanding, and that is what makes you a very sort of professional and trained social worker, which is a very important part when you're in the job market, because this systemic understanding, the more you have in the beginning, like while you're a student, it works well when you're in job sector. Okay. Now, most of the social work students don't really, value fieldwork training as something, important. I, I, I I have seen it myself. In fact, I had little disinclination to fieldwork right in the beginning of the program, so I'm highlighting this here, because fieldwork is sort of optional thing, like burden, or it's like a practical part. So when my theories are strong, I don't really need that practical training and all that. We have plethora of belief system, like beliefs about fieldwork training and all that. And most of the students are not really that engaged in fieldwork. Some students definitely enjoy doing fieldwork and they learn a lot as a result. But some students don't really train themselves properly in the fieldwork. So I seriously encourage you to think about that and engage yourself in the fieldwork a lot, because that's the lab, that's where you learn, and that's where you practice all the theoretical understanding that you get. Remember, professional skills are one part, but in the social work profession, your practice wisdom matters a lot. The way a very good doctor, even a gold medalist doctor, has to go and learn and get that clinical expertise while dealing with patients. Similarly, a social worker has to get in the field, deal with people, deal with the issues, and learn more. Okay, then only we get that development expertise, and that's what is required. If you want to catch a good job. Uh, Social and professional network is your safety wall. Okay, because most of the jobs, most of the assignments, most of the work you get is through your professional network. Okay, and also you should have some social network available for you. So you have to you have to start doing this at a very early stage. Don't wait for motivation and all that. Just throw yourself and start making good friends in the sector, start making good friends in the government and different organizations. Wherever you go, make sure that you come back with some contacts. Okay, and alongside you also, remain active on the digital front also. Like get connected with people on LinkedIn, even Facebook also helps a lot sometimes. So you have to be very active on the digital space, digital landscape, as well as with the real people. Confused about when it comes to the career choice, is that they don't really know the ecology of their profession. Like if I choose to be a social worker, then if I'm joining as a social worker, then what sort of ecology I'm dealing with? Like NGO का culture क्या होता है, social CSR का culture क्या होता है, how am I supposed to behave there, how am I supposed to carry myself? So ये चीजें पता नहीं होती. And on the other hand, there are there are a lot of other organizations that we deal with actually. Like when you are working with a non-profit you're dealing with the local funders, you're looking for sales. So you have to be very open. Okay, I'm sorry about that technical interruption. So my last point was about going where where your heart takes you. As a social worker, you must be feeling for cause. You have a very precise understanding about your values, and that is how you join social work, and that is how you end up being a social worker. So when it comes to taking a call, go for your inner voice and listen to what it tells you, because calculating things in the job sector with all the other equations, and calculating using heart, the heart wins eventually, because you are a social worker. Don't forget about that, because you are in a humanist profession. You're guided by a different set of values, and your profession has a very different agenda. So you have to keep that in mind. Okay, so there is no compromise if you don't find a well-paid job. You should be happy as long as you find a job that appeals to you, that gives you a satisfaction, a humanist satisfaction. So these things are there actually. So don't apply standards of other professions and other job opportunities from like other sector to social work. Social work is a very different stream, and you have to be mentally ready to be a social worker. Then your path becomes very good and jolly. No worries about that. Okay, I think that's it from my side. Now I'm willing to take more questions. Is that all right?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if there are questions, then we can deal specifically.
Yes, sir. I'll just read out the question, Dattatreya, sir.
Yes. Yes. Go ahead.
Yes. The first question we have is from.
Just one sec. Just one sec.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Dr. Govind, that this was a fantastic lecture that we had, and it was very exhaustive. So we are very happy to have gotten you. I just wanted that to come across before you start answering questions, because this was absolutely fantastic. So thank you very much for that. Yeah, Shubham, now you can go.
Govind, sir, can you hear me? Yes, ma'am. Govind, sir, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes,
Govind
sir.
sir, Alka ma'am has something to say. Alka ma'am, can you repeat? I think he didn't get the message.
Alka ma'am, I think she has to unmute her again.
Yeah. Yeah, Dr. Govind.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to tell you that this was a fantastic lecture, and it was very exhaustive. It covered everything that the students would have been interested in. So I am very happy that you came and you spoke, and you have given fantastic guidance. So thank you very much. I wanted to say this before the questions started, because I wanted to set the tone that this was absolutely fantastic and very, very useful for us. So thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Dattatreya, sir, I'll start.
Yes. Yes. Go ahead, Shubham.
Yes. The first question is from Amir Ali, sir. He's asking, can you elaborate on the PhD opportunities in USA in community development or locality-based community development?
Okay, interesting. For PhD in USA, you have to, well, the topic per se is not a big deal. Okay, you get the freedom to do research on your own area of interest, and the academia is very friendly in USA about doing PhD. But the path is like a little challenging. Like you have to have some publications, you have to have some professional experience, you have to have good SOP, you have to have good score in GRE, TOEFL. So these are the requirements that you have to work on. There's a lot of technical requirement to get through PhD program in the USA. As far as the opportunity part goes, you have a number of opportunities, so don't worry about it. Opportunities are pretty much there, but you have to select. The process of selecting the right university for your program is a little tricky. You have to go by the rankings first, then you have to identify schools, then you have to look for the faculties, and then you have to look for the areas of interest of faculties, their work, and their match with your agenda, research agenda. And when everything matches, then you can definitely mark that university as a potential university for you. So if you are in the master's program, you start looking at the universities, faculties, their work, the kind of research preference they have. most of the schools in USA have community related centers. Okay, you have to look for the right center for your research, and wherever the center is located, you can definitely mark that university for yourself. Okay, so these are the broad things you have to work on. Okay, as far as the community thing goes, I'm sure there are quite a few good universities with centers which are dedicated for community related research. Okay, but the field that we have here is very different than the kind of community they expect there. So you just have to educate yourself about the geography as well to some extent. But even if you don't do that, don't worry about it. You can simply go there and they give you sufficient time to learn about the kind of social work sector exists in USA. Okay, academia is very friendly, and if you're really willing to go for it, then just go for it. Okay, just have that research aptitude in you. Okay, write some one or two papers, participate in conferences. Get exposed to the real professional world, and then you can definitely crack it. Okay, they're very friendly, and your area of interest pretty much exists in USA, so no issues.
Yes, sir. The next question we have is from Kaustubh Majumdar. He's asking psychiatric social work or community development, which one has the opportunity in Indian perspective?
Well, in India, community-related organization exist largely in the rural development, and as we know that India is pretty much still rural. Community organization gets upper hand as far as my judgment goes, and psychiatric social work has very limited opportunities available. Like some of the hospitals with psychiatric department and psychiatric wards, then some non-profits dedicated to mental health and psychiatric issues are the primary places where you can find a job, and those are very limited. Okay, there is not much awareness on mental health in India as of now. So there are not many opportunities, and even if there are opportunities, those are mainly available for the medical stream, medical and nursing stream, and social worker comes really last, honestly speaking. So community organization is the top priority, and it's a top job giver section.
Yes, sir. The next question that it's one more question from Kaustubh Majumdar. He's asking, will rural students be eligible to teach social work in a university or college with RD, PG degree and NET in social work?
You have to repeat that question.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes. Kaustubh Majumdar has another question. He's asking, will rural students be able to teach social work in a university or college with RD post-graduation degree and NET in social work?
Why not? What is the problem? In rural or urban doesn't make a difference. As long as you have the satisfactory educational qualification and you qualify the requirement of those jobs, then you can definitely do that. Okay. Particularly rural students and rural post-grads and grads are doing wonderful in social work because they have a very good understanding of a community. Most of the second or third generation urbanites don't expose themselves a lot to the community part, and rural people, like rural students, are very competent about it, and they're very versed with the lives also in the rural area and semi-urban area. So they're very good. They're very competent. But I don't think you will get a permanent position with that kind of qualification. Okay, so you have to have PhD and you have to have NET cleared and you have to have 2 articles published. There are certain guidelines actually. You can find it on the University Grants Commission's website and all that. And when universities are recruiting, they also provide a detailed detailed list of what is the requirement of the desired candidate and all that. So you have to look for that. But teaching is possible, regardless of your demography, whether you're rural or urban, doesn't make much difference. You can definitely get into social work academia.
Yes, sir.
That's all for Kaustubh, I guess. Yeah.
The next question is from Manjusha. She's a student of social work. She's asking, what is the future of social work as a career post COVID-19?
Social work will have tremendous opportunity. The post-COVID world will be very, challenging world to live in. And to ease the things up, social worker are going to show the way. Because now see, let us say the health education part about COVID, there are no competent people who can train the community about health education required to deal with the COVID related situation. Social workers have to get in actually, and it's a sort of disaster. It's a disaster. We are dealing it as a pandemic, right? So it's definitely a disaster management job, and social workers have tremendous role in it. Okay, so you have to train yourself in terms of what kind of job opportunities will be coming up. Okay, health social worker, psychiatric social worker, then health facilitator, health managers. Okay, then health educators. There are a lot of jobs that will be coming up. Okay, in the health sector now, so you can definitely enter in. Okay. But there is
Yes,
one
sir.
thing. Okay,
Yes,
let me.
yes.
There is some what would I say? Some alarming situation also. Like there is going to be little economic disaster taking place with most of the CSR funding agencies, because their funding will be channelized to COVID now, and the funding might be little. It may get some reduction in its allocation. Right? Some funds will be short, or funds will be very minuscule. That leaves a reduction in the employment in non-profit sector, because most of the non-profits that are surviving using CSR funds, now they have to change their focus. COVID or health integrated focus is going to be the major theme these days, henceforth, like at least for 2 years. So there is a little setback on that front, but there is also a ray of hope in terms of the number of jobs available in certain sector. Okay, so you have to keep that in mind. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Dattatreya sir, how much time we have? We have quite a few questions actually. How much time we have exactly?
We can take 2 more questions, sir. Is it possible?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yes,
I'm
yes.
willing to speak more. I have no issues, sir.
Okay, we can take 2 more questions then. Yes.
2 more questions. Okay.
Yeah.
Just a minute. Alka ma'am, do you want to say something?
I just wanted to.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
wanted to say that if Dr. Govind is fine with it, we can go on for another 15-20 minutes and take some more questions if there are there.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. We'll take
Yes,
that. Yes.
sure, ma'am. Yes, sir. Govind sir, you can hear me, right?
Yes, yes. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. The next question is from Yachika. She is a student of applied psychology from Delhi University. She has 2 questions. Her first question is can you explain the process of getting a license in India to work as a social work professional? And her second question is, can you explain a few activities that one has to go through when choosing the same?
The last part I couldn't get.
Yes, she's saying
I couldn't get.
Yes,
Please repeat that
can you
question.
explain a few activities that one has to go through when choosing the same?
Choosing the social work?
Yes,
psychology?
yes.
Okay. So as far as the license part goes, there is no license as such. And if she's a student of applied psychology, then she is pretty much competent to get into the psychiatric social work related part. Okay,
Govind sir, I'm so sorry to interrupt you. I think Yachika wanted to ask about, in the second part of the question, she wanted to know about a few CSR activities in particular, CSR activities.
CSR activities in general?
Yes, sir. I am assuming because there's some lack of clarity. I'll ask, but for now it's CSR activities, sir.
Okay, no problem. Huh?
Yes, sir.
So as far as is she a psychology graduate? I would like to know.
Yes, sir. She's a student of applied psychology from Delhi University.
Applied psychology. Okay, no problem. Then applied psychology has lot of opportunities in mental health sector actually. She's definitely she can work in the psychotherapy sector because she has the essential training. She can work in the health setups and all that. So that's not a big deal. But there are very few initiatives in mental health from CSR wherein she can pitch in. I mean, she has to look at those interventions now. But I think adolescent health and development is one of the core area. Then within skills development, then there are some of the communication part wherein psychological competencies matter a lot. Social workers, psychologists are involved. These are the major things that come to me, come to my mind when I talk about psychology. But if she's done a master's, then she can definitely work as a psychotherapist, and she can get into social work sector as well. But CSR funding to health is very less in the first place, and within that, for mental health, I'm not sure there is substantial funding available and substantial job opportunity available. But she can definitely try her luck. Okay, she has to do some rigorous research because that doesn't really come as one of the dominant areas of CSR interventions.
Yes, sir. The next
Why don't you
question.
share? Can you do one thing, like share my email with her if possible,
Sure,
so
sir.
that I can ask her like what she
Sure,
exactly
sir.
wants. Okay.
Yes.
Sure, sir.
Okay, no problem. Yeah.
Can you let me know your ID, sir?
At the end of the
Ah,
session, Shubham, you can,
Sure.
sir
Sure.
can share the email ID. Once,
Okay.
yes, yes.
all those who have queries, they can
Yes, sir.
directly
Contact him.
connect with sir. But for
Okay, sir.
now, let's focus on the questions that are coming in.
Okay, sir.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
sir.
yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Govind,
go
sir,
ahead.
the next question is from Varnan Krishna Kumar. He's asking, can you elaborate on the situation of the Indian tribal community post-COVID?
That's Vanana.
Banana. Yeah.
Okay, so the situation of tribal community post-COVID.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Indian
okay,
tribal
no.
community post-COVID.
Indian tribal community has been going through a lot of trouble even before COVID. So COVID is going to worsen some of the things for sure. But as far as I see, like Chhattisgarh is doing well on the COVID front. So I don't really see much trouble there in terms of tribal communities. But there are prevalent issues about livelihood which makes their life even more difficult. Okay, because their livelihood is in crisis, and there are not really culturally suitable livelihood interventions as of now taking place through government or even a non-profit sector. So that is going to be a little critical for the tribal communities, and once the funds drain in the government sector or in the CSR sector, that directly affects them. And now their traditional livelihood is pretty much affected by the climate change thing, as well as there is a lot of displacement taking place. So there are quite a few critical junctures wherein the tribal habitats have to live through. So that's going to be a little problematic. Okay, but again, there is major challenging thing with COVID, as I see it with the tribal community, is that we have not really reached to the tribal community in terms of the kind of health education that is needed for tribal community. Also, the health outreach is not really satisfactory as of now with the tribal communities, and that's going to be a little detrimental in the post-COVID situation. But I presume, like India, we see that people have a good immunity, and the social transmission rate is pretty much low in the rural parts compared to the urban parts. So these are two positives. But then tribal community needs very specific attention and culturally suitable initiatives in the dominant sector. Like even if you are giving them health education, you have to make it culturally suitable. And it's always like more than 100% you have to put in if you really want some substantial behavior change in the tribal community. So I see that if COVID puts the stress on the resources of the state machinery as well as corporate and the non-profit sector, then tribal community is going to be a little vulnerable, of course.
Yes, sir. The next question we have is from Neeraj. He's asking, what is the social work career opportunity in abroad as an Indian MSW holder?
Okay, right during the presentation, if you recall, I mentioned about creating degree equivalence, right? So your Indian degree is not valid for practicing in some of the countries. So there are councils for social work, practice, and education. They establish that equivalence. So you have to apply for that process. You have to pay the fees, and you have to establish your degree as an international degree in those countries, and then you have to get the license. Okay, you can do like the licensed social worker LSW or LCSW, licensed clinical social worker in USA's case. Okay, I think the UK you have to get license from the district authority if you want to work as a child care practitioner or something. So you have to identify what sector you want to work in, then what country you want to go for, and accordingly you have to identify the right information in terms of what are the license requirements and what are the degree equivalence requirements. And once you establish that, then only your visa process becomes like smooth. And on the top of it, you already have to find a right job, and you have to get through that recruitment process as well. Okay. As far as the opportunities goes, opportunities are pretty much there. Indian labor is pretty much valued across the world because we are very sincere, we are dedicated, and we speak very good English compared to other countries.
Yes, sir. And the second question that Neeraj has is, can you elaborate the role of social work in Naxal affected communities?
Naxal affected communities. Okay. Role of social worker. Why I'm getting role related questions? I mean, it's a career related webinar. Anyway, I just address it. Okay. Naxal affected communities. Naxal affected community. Do you know what kind of situation is there in the Naxal affected areas? It becomes very difficult. It becomes very difficult to run a development program in a smooth manner because the population.
Sir, sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
Sir, sorry to interrupt. Neeraj is belong to Naxal affected area from Bihar.
So he is from Naxal affected area.
Yes, yes, sir.
So he wants to understand the role of social work in Naxal.
Yeah, he wants to pursue, he wants to start some work there in Naxal.
Okay, that's pleasure. Sorry, Neeraj, I may be on a wrong line in the beginning. Okay, let me answer it as I feel so. Okay. Primarily, when it comes to the Naxal affected areas, we have to understand the kind of livelihood destruction, or the overall the level of social well-being that exists in those areas. Most of the time, social workers are very friendly in those areas. Okay, so social work profession has a more responsibility because they are received well by the communities. Okay, compared to the government machinery, the government officials or government departments or other agents or other development practitioners, social workers are received friendly in Naxal affected areas. Okay, as far as I have seen, the experience of my students in PISS, that these students, like social work students, were able to deal through the community and the kind of dissonance they have about all the development, mainstream development process. So social work has a very major role to play in Naxal affected areas. That is for sure. But the kind of role you have to do is based on the very situational analysis of that particular context. Why I'm telling you? Because we have to understand the animosity among the community, the kind of organization community has, and what kind of vision communities have about development. Okay, most of the communities you will find like they're sort of antagonized by all other actors, and their livelihood is affected, their normal well-being is affected. So in that case, you can definitely play a very major role in terms of facilitating their well-being and establishing their right to self-determination. Okay, that is more important because these communities are well affected and there is a certain amount of animosity among them. Okay, it might be against state, it might be against corporations, it might be against Naxalites even. You have to understand the situation and accordingly you have to provide them constitutional means. Okay, you have to work within the boundaries of constitution only, but you can definitely help these people to get the resources for their development and well-being. That is very important. Okay.
Yes, sir. The next question is from Aditya Jain. He's asking, with the current government policy, CSR funds will be diluted. Therefore, in other sectors than public health, don't you think there will be a job shortage?
There will be a job shortage in terms of the kind of platform available for jobs. Like if the funding is less for the non-profit sector, then social workers get recruited by the private sectors and private setups. Okay, As far as the whole the funding tunnel goes, uh, public health actually has a very good demand of social workers. The problem is that social workers don't establish their necessity in these setups. Okay, we lack our self advocacy. Self advocacy skills are lacking among social workers. That is why we are having such kind of negative outlook about jobs. Okay, now as far as the CSR funding goes, okay, CSR funding is going, whatever CSR funding is coming is going more towards now the health setup, like health related issues only. And COVID is going to be one of the most rated issues, the high rated problem that everyone will be dealing with. So I don't see any possibility of job shortage as such because of the funding architecture as such. Jobs will be there. You just have to find the right opportunity under the right platform. Okay, but NGOs have to struggle a lot in the coming days. NGOs have to, like traditional NGOs working on the development issues, have to struggle a little bit. To catch funding. Funding is going to be a little competitive, and the focus is going to be shifted towards health. Now development will be seen the health focused development. Have you heard about that perspective? Like health is integral for the development. That is how we have to see every issue like that now. Like, we have to make community steward of their own health, and they have to be competent enough to deal with the public health issues like ongoing pandemic, and then only their livelihood will be established, because all the livelihood settings, all the work settings will be changed now in terms of the kind of practices we used to have. But the distancing norm is there, then the mask is there, then the hand washing thing, sanitizer is there. So everyone will be equipped. The whole landscape is going to change slowly. So it's not just social work, or it's not just non-profit or public health. The whole thing is going to be changed now. We have to watch for it, and we have to acclimatize accordingly. We have to adjust accordingly. We have to be flexible to understand how social work, role of social worker is getting changed.
Yes, sir. The next question is from Parishmita. She's a student of MSW. She's asking for PhD in youth work abroad. Which countries can I prefer?
Well, it depends. Mostly the PhD decision about like abroad is affected by the fund availability. Like if you have your own finances, which is in lakhs and lakhs, then you can definitely choose the country you want to be in. But you have to look for good fellowships first of all. Like if you want some scholarship or fellowship for yourself to pursue your PhD education, then you definitely have to search for the universities across the globe wherein you can get this scholarship. DAAD, DAAD is a very good platform in Europe and America, of course. In the USA, you can have this graduate assistantship available. So primarily, your decision is not controlled by the kind of choice you make. It's mainly about the fund availability. Then, as I explained in the earlier question, like while answering the earlier question, fund availability, the guide availability. Like you want some people who have the expertise in your topic. Only then they will be able to guide. Okay, and they are very competent. Like Indian professors in Indian universities, they stretch their profile areas of interest just to meet the requirements of the PhD students. But abroad, people actually don't guide you beyond their own disciplinary expertise. So as far as the choice goes, you can look at the whole world. I mean, wherever you find a suitable department, wherever you find a suitable funding, you can definitely go for it. Okay, there is nothing specific to talk about. Okay, there are very few universities which delimit. Most of the universities are top research universities, and they welcome international people, international MSWs to come and join their program and contribute to the growth of contribute for the growth of program. So you have the whole world open. Okay, but I suggest like going into USA because there is a very good funding structure and very competitive job sector. But then if you are really looking for Commonwealth focus, then some of the European universities are very good actually.
Dattatreya sir, Siddharth sir, I think we'll just take one more question because we are having a lot of questions in the chat box along with a
Sure,
few
I
other
think,
comments
yeah,
also.
I think one or two more questions and then we can
So
wind up.
we'll take one more question from the student. I think if Dattatreya sir or any of the faculties wish to ask anything.
Yes, yes.
yeah.
This question is from Niranjan Pawar. He's a student of MSW from Amity, Mumbai. He's asking, does CSR work in rural areas and what kind of work do they do?
CSR definitely works in rural areas, but most of the work is done through partners. Okay, there are partner non-profits, and they deal with the field-related tasks. And there are regional managers from CSR who look after the implementation of those programs. Like, let me give you one example. Like HDFC has a HRDP, like Holistic Rural Development Program. They call it Parivartan. So Parivartan has a variety of partners, like partner non-profits across different regions in India, like in several districts. And these non-profits actually design programs. They select a few villages, they select the issues, and then they present these proposals to HDFC CSR team, and then selected proposals are provided funding with. And they have regional managers and zonal managers. They look at the monitoring of this program. Okay, so there are most of the programs are not specifically addressing the issues, but livelihood is the very prominent issue that they deal with. Skill development and livelihood is very prominent in the CSR, rural development related CSR sector these days. Apart from that, I must highlight that these NGOs most of the time are told to design programs with a holistic purpose. Like you have to work in the, you have to have some component on sanitation, some component on education, some component on women's development and SDG, some component on livestock and agriculture, regional, then some component on the non-farm. So that becomes it becomes a holistic thing. So that these villages become like model villages. So that's how the whole CSR thing works in rural development. Yeah, go ahead.
All right.
Next question.
All right, sir. Govind sir, if we have your permission, can we have some more questions from the students?
Yes, sir. Please
Yeah.
go ahead. I can spend until until 1 p.m. I can.
Yes, we were thinking of keeping it till 1, right? If we go with your permission. And yes, in the meanwhile, if faculty members have any questions, Dattatreya sir, if you have anything to ask, Shubham will thereafter read if there are any questions more. That
Sure.
Yeah.
So should I go ahead with the student question? Dattatreya sir?
Yes. Go ahead with students' questions.
Yes.
First. Yeah.
One more question from Varna. He's asking, in your experience, what kind of group, or rather, which type of group are the most difficult to work with? And also, on what basis or why should we hire a social worker for his or her position?
Groups. Okay. There are no challenging groups as such. I mean, I don't really use that word because we are not supposed to be looking those groups, even if they are problematic. We are not supposed to look at those groups the way we call it like problematic or something. But let me tell you, there is a lot of political polarization among the community these days, even in urban community and rural, so definitely. Okay, so these groups are very difficult to deal with. I mean, these villages, these communities are very difficult to deal with because there is a lot of political polarization on the basis of ideological beliefs and all that, and the whole approach that social worker goes with gets questioned a lot. And there is political motive behind that. It's not really a rational process that takes place. It's not a rational synthesis that takes place in the community. It is rather, politically motivated agenda that drives these kind of community activities, and that is where you come across the most difficult groups these days. Actually, I mean, that is how I have witnessed. Like most of the program evaluation I do, when I go to villages, I see this kind of aspect. Like, and it really affects the implementation procedure. So, like, NGOs find it very difficult to deal with these people because NGOs are not really that empowered to deal with these kind of local dynamics. So these groups are the most challenging groups these days. Otherwise, the community per se is pretty much open for receiving help coming from outside, and they definitely want knowledge-based help coming from the non-profit CSR. If I have understood your question correct, I'm not really sure about that. So could you please tell me if you have got it right in that right direction?
Sorry, sir.
I really didn't understand
You
your
didn't
question in terms of how
get the
it is.
point of
Have
the
I answered your question?
Yes, sir. I think that I'll just repeat the second half.
Yes,
On
yes,
what
please.
basis or why should we hire a social worker for his or her position?
On what basis?
Yes, sir. On what basis or why should we hire a social worker?
Where exactly? Where are you talking about? Or in general?
Yes, I think it's in general because it's not being specified in the question, sir.
Okay, no problem. No,
Yes, sir.
so see, hiring a social worker is essential only because the kind of training and kind of competencies social workers have. Okay, uh, let me explain this in detail by taking one example. There are patients in the hospital which are not able to communicate their symptoms, hmm, not because of language barriers, but because they are not comfortable, they are not being approached. There is a lot of animosity among some patients. Then I have seen that nurse fails, doctor fails, and then they have to call social worker, and social worker has a culturally sensitive approach. Those skills that they can build rapport, and then they can make the person speak, and then that's how the whole treatment again reestablishes. Okay, that's one of the very primary and basic example. Okay, social workers have a very humanistic approach, social workers have a value-based approach, and social workers have only humanist interest in their profession of helping others. And that is what makes social workers very important for any process across any sector. That is very primary. But we haven't, like, the whole the job market hasn't understood the importance of social workers. But social workers are needed everywhere. Wherever there is a glitch, you definitely need a social worker. That is how social worker is important to the system and systemic functioning, because whenever the functionality gets affected, you have to have resources that are coming from a discipline which is called social worker. I have seen it in almost like every single sector. There are let us say the schematic performance. Why government is emphasizing on partnering with NGOs for implementation of schemes? There is a very plain and simple logic that bureaucrats or the frontline bureaucrats are not capable of convincing the communities about the need of their own development and how the scheme is going to help. They have to take help of social workers. Now, what magic social workers play in the field? They approach the communities, they build the rapport, they organize the community, they establish the common interest, and then they, nicely position the scheme and its importance for the development of community. The whole process of synthesis, the mental synthesis, the psychological synthesis, and the whole understanding of social psychology that is employed by social worker is very specific to this discipline only. It's very specific skill set of social workers, and that is how social workers are very meaningful and pretty much essential part of any team across any sector. And that is why social workers have to be hired. Social workers help you to establish a very smooth functioning of any system, may it be profit making, may it be non-profit, may it be governmental, or may it be with some private motive. Social workers have that skill set which actually makes things smooth.
I think, Shubham, there is only one last question from Dr. Raju sir, I believe, right?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yeah.
sir. And I think this we just got one more question from a student, I believe.
Yeah, so you can put both the questions, and I think that
Okay,
will
sir.
be.
Okay. The question that we have is from Dr. Raju. He's a faculty for Amity Institute of Liberal Arts. He's asking, in which career tracks in social work are the most jobs available? Is there any specific change in the COVID-19 context?
Jobs available. Jobs are mainly available in the livelihood sector for social workers these days, and mainly aimed at community organization, monitoring, and implementation of a variety of skills development as well as livelihood-related interventions. That is very core kind of job segment that is available right away these days. Even in the urban community development, also you find livelihood-related, urban livelihood-related jobs that are available more. Apart from that, as I mentioned in CSR, the executive positions and the associate positions are pretty much there. Some of the management related tasks also are there. Those are pretty much valued jobs these days actually. So these are about jobs actually. Uh, Skills development is going to be the buzzword in the coming days also, because making people employable and employing them, like creation of jobs through variety of formal and informal setups in the own locality is going to be a major challenge actually in the coming days. Post COVID, these are going to be the challenges actually. Challenges actually. And post COVID, the whole urban-based production systems are going to get affected because of the reverse immigration of the labor which is taking place, and now getting this labor back to the same urban systems is going to be very challenging. Like I just heard today only that Yogi wants to make like CM Yogi, UP CM Yogi wants to make it compulsory to have social security ensured for the labor if they have to migrate from UP to any other state. So these kind of things going to be there. There's going to be a lot of fear and a lot of expectation among the labor as well, because the kind of experience they had just now in terms of the whole COVID lockdown situation. So these things going to be there. Now again, providing this whole chunk which has gone back now to providing some labor opportunity, some livelihood opportunity is going to be very challenging. So government has to again engage itself in promoting some cooperatives, promoting FPOs, the farmer producer organizations, and all that, because these are the platforms which can provide some amount of local job. What was the last part of it? Like I really didn't get it. The post-COVID part. What was the question?
Yes. Do you think will there be any specific change in the COVID-19 context?
COVID-19 context. Of
Yes,
course,
sir. Do you see
the
any?
whole
Do you see any
COVID.
specific change?
Yes, 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 definitely. This is what I'm talking about. Like the demand will be very high in terms of rural livelihood interventions now, because most of the laborers which have gone back will not necessarily coming to the tier one or metros that immediately or that promptly. They will rather look for the options into the immediate vicinity, like immediate urban areas, urban industrial areas in the locality itself, and that is how the whole SME sector is going to play a major role. Cooperatives are going to play a major role, going to play a major role. FPOs are going to be very crucial in this whole thing. And the SHG-based enterprises are going to be a major players here, okay. And the whole industrial development corporations and agricultural industrial development corporations are going to be major, creating, platforms for this population. So the whole architecture is going to change a little bit from the mainstream economy is going to be there.
Yes, sir. And this is, I think, this will be the final question from Sunny, which is who's asking, what are the government jobs that are available for a social worker, and what their work is exactly in the government sector? Govind, sir.
Again,
Hello?
there is a glitch, I guess.
Yes, yes, sir. That's a good.
Yeah, he's back. Yes.
Okay, so just a minute.
Okay, I'm sorry again.
Yes, sir.
Some problem.
It's a question from Sunny. He's asking,
Yes,
what
yes.
are the government jobs that are available for a social worker, and what is their work exactly in the government sector?
Well, government sector jobs have changed. I mean, previously it was mainly in the rural development related departments, like district level rural development authority DRDA was one of the major employers of the social workers. But nowadays the whole NRLM, SRLM, it has a lot of job opportunities for social workers with little exposure to the rural development situation scenario and the kind of skill set required. Apart from that, government hospitals have social work positions which are already open for MSWs. And there are quite a few schemes that actually employ social work services now. So social work graduates are being employed in those special programs of government as well. And the work basically is about organizing people.
Yeah, there's another glitch.
I think there's
Go
a
on, sir.
technical glitch.
Yes, sir. Govind, sir.
Yeah, he's back. Yeah.
I'm sorry again. There are a lot of jobs available in government sector as well. I think I'm muted again. Okay. As far as the government jobs are concerned, there are different missions. Okay, the health missions, the skill development mission, these missions, then Swachh Bharat mission. It has a lot of job opportunity available for social workers. If you have some training in WASH, then you can definitely have positions at SPM. And most of the district level executive teams have social workers employed these days. So that's one of the good change in government sector that I see of late. During my studies, it was not much there actually. I mean, hospital-based social workers, then these Navaratna companies like the top government PSUs, the public sector PSI institutions, they had some positions for social workers. There was very limited opportunity, but now MRLM, SRLM, then SBM, there is a lot of job opportunity available. MGNREG also opens like a lot of job related things to non-profits, of course. Government job is pretty much about meeting the goals of the schemes. Okay, meeting the objectives of the schemes. So the process part that we generally employ in social work in non-profits sometimes gets restricted in government sector. But nevertheless, it's a very satisfactory experience because at the end of the day, you're helping people to get something from the government, into their lifestyle and well-being.
Okay, I guess that was the last question. Right?
Okay, that's great.
So, Shubham, there is any question? No, right?
Sir, I don't think so. I've been looking at the chat box. A lot of students are thanking sir. From what I can see, a lot of students are thanking Govind sir for the session.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, my pleasure. I hope I shared something useful.
Yes. So I'll take this opportunity to thank everybody. First of all, I would like to thank our guest speaker, Dr. Govind Daske, sir, for accepting our invitation on very short notice. And I would also like to thank my colleagues who helped us to organize this session, especially Alka Parik ma'am, which is our head of our department, and Dr. Siddharth and Dr. Sontake, and Shubham, obviously. And Shubham, really you help us to organize this session and regularize the whole event. And thank you all for your kind support. And we'll keep you updated with the upcoming events.
Just one moment, Dr. Dattakre, just one moment.
Yes, ma'am.
We need to give his Gmail address because he said that he doesn't mind sharing it. So
sure,
you can just...
Sure, ma'am. Sure, ma'am. I'll be sharing his email ID.
Sir, can you just say your Gmail address for those who are present here, the participants who would like to get in touch with you? We will also drop a mail to them.
Sir, Govind sir has sent it to me in the chat box.
Yeah,
so I put it for everyone in the meeting.
Yeah, Shubham, please share it to all.
Okay, that will be great. Yeah, that will be
okay, I'll just put it in the chat box.
Okay. Then thank you so much for hosting me, MIT University, and all the staff. I'm very thankful. I'm grateful to you for having this opportunity. I really enjoyed chatting with you and interacting with students. It's a real pleasure for me.
It was a great pleasure for us also, sir. Thank you very much. It was fantastic. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, stay safe. Bye-bye.